Welcome back to Movies TV Mad. You can follow me on Twitter at Movies TV Mad. Welcome to Friday's gigantic, epic, compelling, jam-packed, full show. On today's show, I will be asking the question, should the Batman have a sequel? I have some very controversial thoughts on this one. Then we'll be reading an interview from Deadline with Jesse Eisenberg talking about his experiences of playing Lex Luthor, talking about the hatred he got for his casting and his performance as Lex Luthor. Then we look at what Supes had to say about a certain sequence from She-Hulk, when the She-Hulk character talks about how she controls her anger because she's used to being abused on the streets by men being wolf-whistled and catcalled. And I take umbrage on this, and I talk about this. And at the end of the show, if you're a Manchester United supporter like me, you'll want to stay. I have big Manchester United discussions I want to have. A bit of a disclaimer, I will be talking more and more about Manchester United on more and more videos. Now, what I don't want to do is upset the people who have subscribed to this channel because I talk about DC, TV, movies and entertainment in general, but I am a United supporter, so sometimes there will be exclusive United videos, and like today, I will what I'm trying to do today is put it at the end of the show, so if you're not interested in Manchester United, you don't have to watch that portion of the video. So let's get on with Friday's show here on Movies TV Mad with me, Mick, your host with the most. I'm telling the truth. So, should the Batman have a sequel? When I first saw a test screening of this movie, which is very similar to the actual film that was released in movie theatres, I was very enamored by this film. I love the fact that it was allowed to breathe. I love the noir detective drama of it. A Batman film or a live-action piece of work has never been made like this before. Here's my issue with separating that. It's one thing to enjoy the Batman, but does it really deserve a sequel? There's one thing about the Batman I'll say, the problem with it, its pacing is really, really slow. I've complimented that in terms of saying the film is giving space to breathe. It's not really the way modern audiences like to consume their movies today. I was watching two films back to back yesterday, As Good As It Gets, starring the great Jack Nicholson, and Forrest Gump. They used to be our main blockbusters, you know, in one year, I think in 93 or 94. There's no way a film with its pacing and storytelling with no action in it like As Good As It Gets and Forrest Gump would do as well in movie theatres today. Because this young audience only cares about VFX and action, you know, and they don't want a lot of convo because they've been bred a different way in a different way of watching movies. So I was just thinking yesterday, those two movies wouldn't do very well today. So there's nothing wrong with Matt Reeves' The Batman, but if he makes another film like this, which doesn't have much action apart from a couple of fight scenes here and there, and a brilliant Batmobile chase scene in the middle of the movie. Par that, there's nothing really in terms of action going on in this movie. One of the reasons this film was hugely cheap to make, I don't think this film even cost $100 million. I'm not talking about the COVID pandemic delays. I'm not adding that in. That's unfair. This movie made a huge profit if you take away the COVID delays. So very cheap to make. And I'm just wondering, maybe the Batman franchise should continue episodically on HBO Max via the Arkham show, via the Penguin show that we're being told by Deadline and other publications is definitely happening. At the same time, they're telling us the Batman movie is in doubt. Could it be that David Zaslav could suggest to Matt Reeves to continue The Batman franchise episodically as different streaming shows rather than letting him have a cinematic sequel? I think this could be what's actually going on, and I'd love to know in the comments down below how you feel about this. I think this is a better idea. You know what? The Batman felt like an HBO drama rather than, a climactic, epic film that was made for cinema. You could have episodically cut the Batman into episodes, put it on HBO Max or HBO Go or whatever, and people would have called it one of the greatest streaming dramas of all time. Smash a like on the like button if you agree with me there. So, would it be better for this franchise to be moved to HBO Max? Matt Reeves doesn't have to spend much money on these things. They can look good, they can look sleek. I'm not talking about it being cheap, but maybe the Batman franchise should and will continue on HBO Max rather than as a cinematic movie. What favours does this do the universe as a whole? Well, you can class the Batman franchise going forward as a streaming show, a television show with the same quality as you would get in the movie theatres. It will bring more people to HBO Max, and you could focus on a central Batman within the DC Extended Universe, whether it's the existing DCEU or a brand new DCEU. Whether that's continuing with Ben Affleck's Batman or basically casting a younger Batman for a brand new franchise. I mean, I'm kind of split on that. I love Ben's Batman. I love the Snyderverse. But I think for the good of DC live action and the franchise, maybe we should start again with all of these characters. But then again, it would be a shame never to see Ben's Batman again, and Gal's Wonder Woman, and Henry's Superman, and Jason's Aquaman. Of course it would. But I do feel that would be a better way to go. So in terms of me asking, should the Batman have a cinematic sequel? No. I'm going to be controversial, not for the sake of being controversial, but I'm just going to say no. I worry about a sequel, as I've already said, if it's going to be in the same kind of stylization, in the same kind of pacing, which modern day audiences don't like. It's amazing that this movie made so much money, over 750 million, which was good for its budget. And if it wasn't for the COVID delays, they would have made a bigger profit. So clearly people were interested. Or were they more intrigued in the fact that this was a Batman movie? We know that Batman puts, the Batman character has always put butts in seats, mostly. You'd have to make a pretty crappy Batman film for it to flop. AKA Batman and Robin, which I really find entertaining still, but it was a flop. So very rarely does Batman live action media fail, because as long as it's half decent, people will come. People love Batman. They relate to the character and the world, and that's great. How would Matt Reeves feel with his vision being taken away from the movie theatre? I think he would be very upset. He fought tooth and nail to make sure that the Batman wasn't part of day and date. It could be a problem for him. But what are the positives of Matt Reeves' The Batman universe going over episodically on HBO Max? They can let him do whatever he wants. He can take his time. He'll be under no pressure. And we'll actually have a Batman TV streaming show. We've never had a proper Batman series in terms of Batman being involved since, the Batman 1960s series. That's how stupid it's got. We had a Batman prequel in Gotham. We've had different things. We've got a Pennyworth show. But there's no Batman-centric show. By Matt Reeves being allowed to continue to form the Batman universe on HBO Max, I think it could really work as an episodic TV show. Maybe sometimes he could do movies on there, but I know that Zaslav doesn't want to go that way. But different series like The Penguin and the Arkham show could really, really work, and then continue the Batman enterprise over on HBO Max. This would upset a lot of people. This would be a lot more controversial than shelving Batgirl. And, the Batman there's no scripts really for Arkham or the Penguin or the Batman 2 yet. That's the beauty of making this situation now. We know that David Zaslav wants one defined DC Extended Universe. Whether that's the existing DCEU, or maybe I'm wrong about the Batman being pushed to HBO Max, it's just an idea of mine, by the way, and maybe they'll implement that universe, or the Joker universe, which you would think would never happen, but we have heard some interesting things about David Zaslav's relationship with Todd Phillips. You're going to take umbrage with me and say, well, hang on a minute, Mick, the Joker movie didn't have any action, right? We had one gun incident near the third act of the movie. I understand that, but for some reason, even though the Joker had less action in that movie than the Batman, I was more sucked in to that movie and that world than I was the Batman, and I really enjoyed the Batman, but it's never been my favourite Batman movie ever. No, there are much better Batman movies than the Batman, as far as I'm concerned, because it didn't feel like it was meant to be in the cinema. And I know many people and most people will disagree with that, but I just felt Joker felt more cinematic, more climactic, more compelling. And we're talking about Joaquin Phoenix. I've always wondered what kind of Batman Joaquin Phoenix would make. A really compelling one like Christian Bale, I would imagine. And so I do feel it, because these rumours are coming out about the Batman not being greenlit, the Batman sequel. So I think, personally, it would be a very, very good idea not to scrap the Batman universe entirely, and apparently that's not happening, because we're definitely, this is the thing, we're definitely getting Arkham and the Penguin on HBO Max, but there's doubts about the future of the Batman sequel theatrically. That tells you that my idea might actually happen. Maybe I've stumbled on a good idea that the Batman universe may be moving to HBO Max. So we all know who the real Supes is, right? His name is Matt Ramos. He started off as a little fan who became an influencer. He's followed by The Rock and James Gunn. And I'm not surprised, because he shields for Disney, WB, and every other studio. This young man has become a business tool for these huge studios, and he's quite happy to shield for them. This is what he had to say about a scene in She-Hulk. The scene where Jen explains how she's able to control her anger was easily my favourite moment of this episode. As a man, it's something I don't think about. So you've never been wolf whistled before or catcalled. Anyway, also makes me appreciate how this show was written and directed by women. Anyway, he responds to people's reactions to him. They haven't been great. Some of you all are really taking this tweet so out of context from what I meant within the show itself. Don't expect anything less from this app. Well, you don't expect people to call you out on your bullshit. So what's he actually talking about here? So there's a scene in She-Hulk where Jennifer Walters explains to Bruce Banner, or Clever Hulk, or whatever you want to call this crazy, ridiculous version, beta male version of the Hulk in the MCU. She explains how she can control her anger and her temper. Being a woman, she's used to being wolf whistled and catcalled. So of course the sheer applause comes out. Let me tell you something. Let me ask you questions. Is every woman's experience as horrible as a homeless man's? Is every woman's experience as bad as a man who has cancer? Is every woman's experience as bad as a young man abused by his parents? No. And this is what happens when we don't believe in individualism, because every single person is an individual and has individual experiences. And to say that all women have to put up with insults from men on the street and catcalls and wolf whistles is extremism. It's basically pushing out a lie. She's basically alluding to every woman having to deal with this, because as many men and boys put up with wolf whistles and catcalls as women do. That's the truth. The extreme left won't tell you that. So all Supes is doing here is shilling for the studio. This is great. This is brilliant. A lot of people have said a lot of things about this show. Now, I've seen this clip. That's why I'm talking about it. Now, in all context, I'm not going to tell you whether I like She-Hulk or not, because I haven't actually seen the series. I stopped watching Miss Marvel in the middle of the series, and here's why. Miss Marvel had a great series premiere pilot, but then it got drowned out by all the cultural representation and inclusion. I don't have any problems with that inclusion. It's educational to young people to learn about other cultures. My problem was with it, it was drowning in the cultural, representation, but it didn't really, it allowed the cultural representation and inclusion to drown out the actual story, and it became very, very taxing and boring. And I understand that Miss Marvel wasn't made for me, and men like me, and men of my age. I get that, but I really loved the first episode. She-Hulk, I've seen the trailer. We know what's going on here. There's a lot of extreme left commentary, a lot of social commentary, a lot of propaganda as usual. We've heard about the new Star Wars TV show that's going to be talking about, different elements of gender politics in the Palpatine era of Star Wars. So I won't be watching that either. I'm done with the MCU. I used to love going to the cinema, watching phases 1 to 3 and collecting the physical copies and buying the digital copies. I'm not a huge MCU fan, I'm a DC guy, as you all know. But at the end of the day, this Soups guy pretends he's a big Superman fan. He loves DC and Marvel. He has become a shill. He is making a lot of money. He actually hires out movie theatres and lets his fans pay so they can watch a film together and have some kind of experience together. This man is another snake oil salesperson, and it's very, very sad if you've allowed yourself to be manipulated by this person who's making money out of your love of entertainment. In terms of the MCU and its extremism now, it's absolutely unwatchable. I don't want to shout about these things on the internet and become another statistic. All I'm going to say is when I don't like something, I no longer watch it. Actor Jesse Eisenberg has been talking about a lot of things, and he's been talking about his experiences playing Lex Luthor. The writer Chris Terrio is a very serious writer. He thought a lot about my character, and I thought a lot about my character too. I talked with my acting coach about the character a lot, and then people hate me, Eisenberg said. He also said he'd be very surprised if he ever returned to the DC live-action universe again. What do I think about Jesse Eisenberg as Lex Luthor? When his casting was announced, I hated it. I thought it was a ridiculous piece of casting. He's a short actor. He's got really long curly hair. He looks nothing like Lex Luthor. I would never have casted him. But then, like Ben Affleck, because I reacted the same way over Ben's casting as Bruce Wayne and Batman, I thought, hang on. This is one of the best actors in independent film today. Jesse is a really talented actor. And I thought, this could be really, really special. So I actually love the take that Chris Terrio and Jesse Eisenberg had on Lex Luthor. Now, if you forget the fact that Jesse looks nothing like Lex, if you look at the storytelling around him in BVS, it's very accurate to the comics. The way he despises Superman in BVS is the way he despises Superman in the comics. He just doesn't want to kill Superman. He wants to break him. He wants to destroy him. Then he wants Batman to kill him for him. He actually wants to see Batman and Superman kill each other. Then there's no one standing in his way. He knows about Wonder Woman. He's been researching all the metahumans, but he doesn't see her as a bigger threat as Batman and Superman, obviously. So I liked what Jesse did. I absolutely would love to see more if Zack was allowed to finish his arc. If you're concerned about him saying he'll be surprised if he ever returns to DC as Lex Luthor again, let me tell you something. Actors are always the last people to know what's going on. So I wouldn't worry about that either. I just want to go back to our subject of BVS and talk about and explain why Snyder fans hate the Batman so much. It's nothing personal. They don't actually hate the Batman, but the Batman replaced Ben Affleck's the Batman. And that wasn't fair to Ben Affleck or to the Snyderverse or to the Snyder fans. And that's why they're so aggressively against the Batman. It doesn't actually mean they hate the movie, that they hate Matt Reeves. It's just the way the movement works, unfortunately. And sometimes they don't know how to execute what they're saying in the right way. And it comes across a lot more toxic than it is. Now, I love the Snyderverse. I absolutely understand my fellow Snyderverse fans' frustrations about the Batman. Let's see what could happen with the Snyderverse in the future. And finally today, let's talk about Manchester United. Manchester United are about to buy 30-year-old CDM Casemiro. I think that's how you say his name. This is one of the best central midfielders in the world. Manchester United fans have got issues with this. The fact that he's going to cost 60 million and get paid a lot of money. But, as I say, he's one of the best. This is going to be a fantastic signing. Now, I know people are kind of getting a bit anxious that this doesn't take away from the Glazer out hashtag and the demonstrations that are going to happen on Monday night's game against Liverpool. And, you know, whatever happens, whoever we sign, I still want the Glazers out. But it's very important that Eric gets the players that we need. And I know that some of you would like us to be relegated, go down the leagues, just to get rid of the Glazers. Let me tell you something. We may get rid of them eventually because of that, but it could hurt our club for the next decade or two. That's not what we want. We've got a world-class manager at the club. Let him buy the players that he wants. A lot of people see this transfer window as a mess. Now let's look at it. Let's open up. Let's really analyze this. The Frankie de Jong situation isn't the directors, the CEOs, and the director of football's fault. Eric wanted Frankie. Frankie didn't want to come to Manchester United, didn't want to leave Barcelona, and wanted to play Champions League football, first of all. He's also having a civil war with his club. They owe him 17 million pounds or euros in back pay because of the pandemic or whatever it is. They're refusing to do it. So Manchester United offered him great wages, 80 million to the club or whatever it was. Manchester United did their bit. Some fans are saying, why didn't they just pay the 17 million themselves? Why the fuck should they? A lot of you people come out and say, well, Man United pay too much for this and that. You're even complaining about the transfer fee for Casemiro, or however you say his name, right? Well, you can't have it both ways. You can't say we're spending too much on one of the best CDMs in the world and then say, why didn't they give out the 17 million? Damn those Glazers. I'm not defending the Glazers. I'm just telling you that situation isn't the club's fault. They did everything to nab that player for Eric. It's impossible. And what happened was, because on Eric's insistence, the club wasted so much time on De Jong. We weren't focusing on other targets or other CDMs. Now they know, most probably, Frankie isn't coming. They've gone, right, that's done. Here's another target. He's going to be more expensive, but we're going to go for it. We're going to do this. We should have gone for him from the beginning. So people moaning about his age, that's why they were focusing on De Jong as well, because he's younger than the Real Madrid CDM. But ultimately, you know, the Real Madrid CDM is a successful player, a celebrated player. Frankie de Jong has been a flop at Barcelona. Great player under Eric, but a crap player, really. He's failed. He's failed at Barcelona. Now, I think that Eric could do wonders with Frankie at United, but it wasn't to be. It wasn't possible to get him. Now, let's move on to Anthony. Now, Anthony, we bid 80 million. The 80 million that Ajax wanted on Wednesday, and they rejected it because they don't want to sell him. They're just trying to price him out of a transfer. We're never going to get him. So we're finally accepting that because, again, Eric insisted on that transfer. Now, you've got to respect the manager, because Anthony and De Jong are great players. There's nothing wrong with insisting on them, but we've wasted the whole transfer window on them. This is the truth of the situation. And this is why Eric isn't frustrated with the club. He's frustrated with the situation, but Eric isn't frustrated with the Glazers or the people, or the CEO or the director of football, because they've tried their best to get these players. Again, I am not a Glazer puppet. I don't like the Glazers, but I think it's important that we're factual about these situations. And this is the reason that this summer transfer window has been a clusterfuck, everyone. Because the players that Eric wanted were very complicated transfers. Look at Casemiro. It's taken us, 2-3 days? They've probably been working on it secretly a little bit longer. But look at what Manchester United can do when they're free to do it. And the transfer isn't complicated. On people saying Casemiro, whatever his damn name is a mercenary who just wants the money. All these footballers are the same. Wave millions and millions at a human being, they become money motivated. It's part of our vanity. Nothing wrong with that. But this is a really good professional. And again, on his age, this is an elite, world-class, experienced CDM that people like Zidane can learn from. This is a good thing. This is not a bad thing. And he will take us for a couple of seasons until those young players are ready to take that mantle. This is what happened when the class of 92 was developing. We had world-class players in the team already, and they learned from them. It's the same thing here. This player can dramatically transform this team. Now, can he play against Liverpool on Monday? It's a race against time. It's unlikely they'll be able to get the visa in time, but I don't give a shit. It will be great for him to take lumps out of Liverpool on Monday night. But anyway, it will give the team some confidence, because this team has been drained of any confidence for a long time, since Ollie. Ollie damaged these players. He brought in a group of players who should never have played together, because there's not really a captain there. I would dramatically make Casemiro my captain, just like that. Just someone who can lead from the centre of midfield. I don't care about their seniority. I want someone who can take the mantle of being a Manchester United captain. And Harry Maguire can't do that. Harry Maguire is a really good central defender, but he's bereft of any confidence. And they can't take him out, really, unless they do. I mean, they could easily replace him with Varane and have Martinez there, but there's rumours that Martinez may be in the central midfield area, the CDM area for the time being. And obviously, if the Real Madrid guy we've just bought can't play, maybe that's an option. So it'll be very, very interesting. Can Manchester United beat Liverpool with the way we played in the first two games? Well, this is interesting, because in pre-season we looked like world beaters. I know we will be playing lesser opposition, but still, without Ronaldo in the team, the players seem more relaxed. So that could be something that could happen. Maybe Ronaldo won't play, because Ronaldo could still leave. Apparently, he actually wants to leave, and he's creating an uncomfortable situation. A legend, an icon, love him for everything he's done and for last season. But look, he's causing problems. He has to go whatever side of the fence you are on. And finally today, about Manchester United. I am part of a Manchester United fan group here in Cyprus. We have now got the proper fan groups, the fan organisations have actually written a list of things about the demonstrations on Monday night at Old Trafford, and you should definitely give that a read. If you hang on a minute, I'll try and find it. So this is the information that we need for the demonstration on Monday for the Liverpool game. Now, I live in Cyprus. I won't be there. We will be doing our bit here via the Supporters Association here in Cyprus. So I'm anti-Glazer, I'm Glazer out, but I won't push fake propaganda to enable that situation. There's many things the Glazers do wrong that we can expose them for, but pushing out lies and having a go at the CEO, who at the end of the day is just doing a job, it's not Murtaugh's fault. It's not the CEO's fault. I can't even remember their names now, right? So there's John Murtaugh and there's another one, right? Who pretty much have been in charge of recruitment this summer. But I've explained the situation. You know, Anthony was a difficult one. Ajax didn't want to sell him. And, you know, Frankie de Jong was impossible. And we wasted too much time. And that was the manager. And I respect him that he wanted those players. Now it's time to move on. We've got a week and a half to the transfer window shut. So we've really got to get some players in. I mean, I think we're after a lot of players. And that team could change by the end of the transfer window. It's very, very serious. Anyway, we meet at the toll gate. We have 30-meter fencing to hang your banners. Bring your colours and flags. Arrive anytime from 5:30 p.m. We march at 7 p.m. We congregate at the Trinity. We appreciate emotions are running high. We must keep it legal. We must keep it peaceful. We don't want any reds getting lifted and giving the Glazer propaganda machine a chance to spin the narrative. We have built great momentum and awareness. We are seeing support from key influence that can really make a difference. It is imperative this continues for us to follow and achieve our strategy. Bring the heat, bring the noise, bring the passion. Let's show the Glazer family that this time it will not blow over. Love will always beat greed. Some things are worth fighting for. So, and this is the 1958, the main group that's really trying to make the club worthless to the Glazers, and they've tried. And they've not just tried this, they've succeeded in many, many ways. So Monday is really important. I want more transfers. I want Eric to have his players. And unlike some people, I think it's important that the team starts to win and succeeds. I support Manchester United on the field and off the field. I want them to succeed. And by them failing on the field, it doesn't mean you're going to get rid of the Glazers. Let's do well. Let's chant the goals. Let's celebrate the good times. And let's hope Eric and the boys start winning. On the other hand, there's an opportunity here to maybe empty Old Trafford, do the demonstrations, just like they're planning there in 1958. It sounds really good. I support the Glazer out movement. But I don't support seeing Manchester United lose every week. I don't want to see that. I do not want to see us relegated. And that, my friends, is my stance on this situation. This has been Movies TV Mad with Friday's show. I'm Mick, your host with the most. Just ask your girlfriends and your wives. Please like, share, subscribe, everything to support the channel. It's not a big channel. I barely get 50 views, 30, 50, 100 views on a good video. So it's not the biggest channel. So whatever you can do to support this platform, if you're like me and you enjoy it every single day, do it so I can keep on making these videos. Until we see each other again, which will be on Saturday's show. If you've enjoyed this one, please come back. Until then, until we see each other again, goodbye, au revoir, auf Wiedersehen.